As in the Shakahola killings, DNA tests have emerged to be such a time-consuming exercise in the Hillside Endarasha school fire tragedy as well. Government pathologist Johansen Oduor says it will take between 1 and 2 weeks. This has raised concerns on the prolonged agony for the bereaved yearning to come to closure in cases where bodies of their kin cannot be visibly identified. Our reporter Sarafina Robi unravels this puzzle in the science behind Deoxyribonucleic Acid DNA tests.
Deoxyribonucleic acid, abbreviated to DNA, is the molecule that carries genetic information for the development and functioning of an organism.
DNA is actually it's a protein. DNA is protein. It's present in virtually every aspect of every part of the body, be it in parts of your hair, the roots of your hair, your skin, organs, your blood. It's everywhere in your body.
Observed closely, it consists of 2 long polynucleotide chains composed of 4 types of nucleotide subunits. Each of these chains is known as a DNA chain or a DNA strand. Hydrogen bonds between the base portions of the nucleotides holds the 2 chains together. Dr. Bernard Didier, a pathologist, says this setup can serve different functions.
It is used for many purposes, but it can be used for identification, maybe paternity identification, where it's commonly used. It can also be used for criminal purposes. Before
testing, there is extraction process.
Within the cells, there's a nucleus. We extract that DNA from that cell, and the DNA appears in strands. That's why they're called strands. So they appear in strands. So this is what is tested, and then it is compared in the laboratory to those DNA that is cells, DNA that is extracted from a suspect, and then they are compared.
The most recent tragedy of fire at Endarasha, 2 of the victims died in hospital while undergoing treatment. However, 19 of them, aged between 8 and 13, perished on site, and their charred bodies required DNA tests to identify them to facilitate burial.
We have a big team of doctors, investigators, and analysts from Cambridge and from government chemists. And it's a hope that with that team we'll be able to finish the autopsy.
In a fire situation, for example, you might want to map how did the fire start, from where did the fire start from, okay? What were the weather conditions? Where was it progressing to? Where was the intensity? Who are the first people who came there? Because it's possible that first people who respond first can tamper with the scene, okay?
And it is not any power interfere in the DNA matching.
Most of the time we've preferred to go for the mothers, because there are cases where, for example, you might have probably somebody isn't somebody's biological father when he's actually been bringing up somebody, and this might cause a lot of trouble when they can't be matched. I've been bringing up his child, and
What of the bodies burnt beyond recognition?
Specimens with them so that we can match them. They can be matched to their parents. It's an important part of closure.
How relevant are fingerprints in such cases?
Based on something called the Locard's exchange principle, that is actually the bedrock of forensic, placing anybody to a crime scene. It's called Locard's exchange principle. You may leave your finger, it may not be visible, but when treated scientifically, we may dust a surface, depending whether it's smooth or it's rough. We can dust the surface, get the fingerprints, and then take it to a register, and then you can be identified through a database there. But that is not DNA.
Then, more pertinent is why it takes that long.
Then in the analysis, now in the laboratory, now you're analyzing this using probably machines. Then after analyzing, then there is interpretation that is now post-analytical. And then so that you give the same proper results to the rightful people and convey it in a manner that that is now post-analytical. Depending on the laboratory, it can take up to about 3 weeks to a month. But there are certain orders, for example, court orders that require, for example, in criminal justice system, some of these need to be done expeditiously and fast.
To further enhance forensics in the country, an independent body is being advocated for.
The institution wants to act independently, have its own personnel who are trained for forensic investigations, be funded independently to conduct its investigations, collecting samples, traveling all around, remuneration of its staff, and all that.
As such, DNA testing and marching to produce accurate results is not such a simple exercise. Sarafina Robi for KBC Channel 1.